Stay tuned for a meeting of the City of Calabasas Commission. The meeting will be broadcast using Zoom and the city's CTV Channel 3. Commission members may teleconference into the meeting without noticing or posting an agenda at their teleconference location. Besides the live TV and Zoom broadcast, the live stream of the meeting may be viewed online at cityofcalabasas.com/CTV Live. If you want to provide public comment, press Raise Hand if you're using Zoom or *9 if you're joining by phone. Just unmute yourself by pressing *6. Say your name and the city you live in. You'll be allowed 3 minutes to address the Commission regarding any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Commission. If the power or internet goes out lasting more than 15 minutes, or if there's some event that prevents the Commission from meeting or prevents you from providing public comment, then the meeting will be adjourned. Any items noticed as public hearings will be rescheduled to the next regular Commission meeting. Any other agenda items the Commission has not taken action on will be placed on a future agenda. Now, a meeting of the City of Calabasas Commission.
Good evening. Welcome to the July 26th meeting of the Calabasas Traffic and Transportation Commission. Welcome to all commission members, staff, and members of the public. Thank you for joining us this evening. We have an agenda that hopefully will move along at a effective and efficient pace. And I'd like to first do is call the meeting to order and have a roll call of the commissioners. Those I can see are Vice Chair Schechter.
Present.
Commissioner Soriano.
Here.
Commissioner Huzanea.
Here.
And I don't see any other commissioners. Tatiana or Robert, do you know if we're going to have other commissioners joining us?
I have no information. Let me see if Anna knows.
Okay, thank you. Well, we do have a quorum, so let's proceed, and we'll acknowledge the participation of other commission members if it happens. So thank you, my fellow commissioners, for joining us this evening. And with that, I'd like to have Jacques lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Helps if I get off mute. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice
for all.
Thank you. With that, thank you very much. We have at the beginning of all of our meetings a time for announcements and introductions. With that, I'll open up this particular item to my fellow commissioners, to any of those indicating an interest in making an introduction or an announcement, to please proceed with that. Commissioner Soriano?
I have none, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Vice Chair Schechter?
Thank you, none at this time.
Matthew, do you have any introductions? Or very good.
No, thanks.
I'll ask Tatiana, do you have any general announcements or introductions that you would like to present to the commission at the outset of our meeting?
None.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hearing none, we'll move on to our next item, which is the approval of the agenda from April 26th. Put that opportunity out in front of my fellow commissioners. Is there a motion to?
I'll move to approve that. Yeah, sure. I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Hearing a second, any discussion on the matter? Hearing none, let's call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the April 26th meeting, please indicate so by saying aye.
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 Approved unanimously. And then the next item is the approval of the agenda for this evening's meeting. Put that out there for consideration by my fellow commissioners.
So moved.
Okay, and second on the motion on that matter?
Seconded.
Hearing a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving this evening's agenda, please indicate so by indicating verbally.
Aye.
Aye, approved unanimously. Thank you very much. The next item is our opportunity for public comment. In public comment, we encourage members of the public to engage the commission on topics of interest to them that are not on the agenda this evening, but to indicate that any item that's presented during this portion of our meeting cannot be discussed and will not be discussed by the commission. So with that, Anna, do we have any members of the public who have put forward an interest in speaking at this time? Tatiana, is Anna with us?
No one raised hands, Chair.
Okay. So hearing no indication from the public to speak at this point in the agenda, we'll move to our first agenda item, which is the adoption of Resolution 2022-01, establishing the official scheduled meeting dates and times for the Traffic and Transportation Commission. So that item, staff report came from Robert Yalda. Robert or Tatiana, who will be carrying this item?
Mr. Chair, I will present this item. On March 23rd of 2022, the Calabasas City Council adopted resolution number 2022-1769 regarding commission procedures. And this resolution directs city commissions to adopt a resolution officially setting meeting schedule. And the meetings should be done not less than quarterly per year, in addition to not commencing prior to 6 p.m. on a meeting date. And any additional meeting will be determined as a special meeting. Per City Municipal Code, Section 2.36.050, regular meetings shall be held not less than quarterly on a date established from time to time by resolution of the Commission. The Commission hereby establishes the dates and time for the Traffic and Transportation Commission scheduled meeting to occur quarterly on every fourth Tuesday of each month at, I'm sorry, not each month, quarterly. On every fourth Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. At the City Council chambers at the City Hall, or meetings can be held virtually as determined by the city manager in compliance with applicable law. Tonight, all we're asking for the Commission to review resolution, and if this is the schedule is confirmed, it's in conformance with Calabasas Municipal Code and the resolution of the City Council. If this is the schedule the Commission would like to set as an official schedule, then we need to adopt the resolution number 2022-01, setting an official regular schedule meeting dates.
Thank you, Tatiana. Well, I'd like to poll Matt and Matthew and Jill and Jacques. Matthew, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, no, this is, for us, I think this is a lot more convenient. We know when we're expected now. It's right there in black and white. Fourth Tuesday of the month, 7 p.m., January, April, July, October. My schedule is set, it's fixed on that. I appreciate staff for putting this together. It makes my life a lot easier. In the past, I've wondered. And
yes.
Also, having said that, I'm okay with an earlier start time, but I'm not going to make a hubbub. I'm fine with 7, I'm fine with 6, but just sticking to the fourth Tuesday of the month, January, April, July, October, I'm all for it. Again, no brainer for me. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Matthew. Jill or Jacques, any comments on this?
No, seems reasonable and easy to plan around. Thank you.
Ditto, yes.
Jacques?
Yeah, same. I agree with it. Thank you.
Okay, very good. It would be good, Anna, as we go forward after the conclusion of this meeting, if you could just send an email out to the commission giving us the specific dates so we can plant them on in our calendars and schedule. And Matt, I understand possibly, your your interest in moving it to an earlier time. I certainly appreciate that, but I think 7 o'clock is good. It gives people a chance to organize their evenings, and 7 o'clock seems to work. There are some times when we have an extensive agenda where we could use an extra hour. And if we have an extraordinary agenda, we can always move it with sufficient notice to the public.
Great. Well said, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, your chair would entertain a motion to approve the staff report to pass on the resolution number 2022-01.
I'll move to approve the resolution as stated.
Second?
I'll second it.
You have your second. Any discussion on the matter? All those in favor of the resolution, please indicate so by verbal response.
Aye.
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 Very good. Thank you. I'm going to back up the truck just a moment, but we have someone, we have a new face on the gallery of the Rogues Gallery here. And I'm assuming Robert and Tatiana and Anna, that Sam's involvement in tonight's meeting means he's been elevated to this grand platform of a student representative on our commission. I had not been informed of that, but I'm assuming by him being here that in fact is the case.
Mr. Chair, you're correct. I'm sorry, in the beginning, I had some difficulty with my computer, so I was on my iPhone, but finally I got it. Sam is gonna be our new student commissioner. He applied for the position, and after reviewing his application, his background was pretty impressive. So I will let Sam introduce himself and tell us a little bit about himself. So he's gonna be our new and improved student commissioner.
Well, I don't know about improved, but
Well,
certainly.
Nicholas Yalda's gone, so Sam better do better job. So Sam, would you be kind enough to introduce yourself? Tell us what you do, what school do you go to, and why you want to be a part of this commission.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sam, and I'm a rising senior at Viewpoint School. And yeah, I read about the commission and some of its work, and I was, as like a new driver as well, I definitely feel the effects of traffic safety, and especially around like schools like Viewpoint and Calabasas High, where I feel like it's pretty, the effects of it are pretty prevalent. So yeah.
Thank you very much. We welcome your involvement. And new driver doesn't mean necessarily that you now know everything about transportation, but the state of California issues these things called driver's licenses. And most people think that is their certification that they're a transportation expert. It's just one aspect of transportation. So Sam, welcome to the club.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely. And Sam's message of, I have a driver's license now, so I'm interested in transportation, just gave me a thought. And Robert, I'd like you and Tatiana and Anna to think about this. It would be valuable maybe when it is not 105 degrees out, that if we could organize a trolley ride for the commission around Calabasas, either on the regular trolley route, but at a time where we don't conflict with any Brown Act issues. Maybe we just bring some masking tape to put over our mouths to indicate we're not talking to each other. But can you please take that under advisement and take that as a commission chair's prerogative request?
Will do. Actually, will be great opportunity to drive around, show the new projects. Old Town Calabasas, Tatiana and her team are doing a great job. Mulholland project will be under construction. So we can talk to city attorney and maybe we can start our Traffic Transportation Commission meeting an hour early in a workshop type of deal at the shuttle, drive around, visit different part of the town, then come back to the meeting. So let me find out. We will work out the detail. I will work with Tatiana and Anna and we will let you know.
My special request is on the trolley, not in an enclosed bus. See if we can make that happen. And
I'll make sure you get the jolly trolley. How about that?
The jolly trolley, exactly. Thank you very much, Robert.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be an official meeting. I don't know whether by Brown Act and city procedure, it has to be an official meeting, but let's see if we can make this happen for some time in the later fall. Thank you very much. Tatiana, do you have the commission's vote on this matter to proceed with the resolution and forwarding it to the council, correct?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, very good. The next item on the our agenda is a speed limit update. And I'd like very much, I think it's Tom, if you're taking lead on this matter, we welcome your presentation.
Thank you. Yes, this is my item. And I've got a 35-minute presentation. No, I'm just kidding. I could actually talk a long time about this because it's a topic that I kind of hold near and dear. And as a traffic engineer, this is one of the most important things that I think we do is helping set appropriate speed limits. So anyway, so there's been a change in state law recently that's going to affect how we set speed limits in our local agencies. Just to kind of start with a basic of how speed limits are set, there is the law, which is the California Vehicle Code. And those are all those sections of the code are enacted by the legislature and signed into law by the governor. And then the vehicle code also requires that Caltrans produce a document that explains how the vehicle code sections are implemented and how all the traffic control devices are designed and installed. And that's the California Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, or the California MUTCD, which you've probably heard about before. So in 2021, the legislature approved Assembly Bill 43, and it mostly went into effect in January of this year. And there's one final section that does not go into effect until July of 2024. And that's because there are some things that have to be done by Caltrans in terms of changes to the MUTCD as well as the court system. So just to kind of take a step back, I don't know how much the commission members or the public know about how speed limits are set. So I'm just going to go quickly about the current methodology. Essentially, all speed limits follow the basic speed law 22-350. This is the section of the vehicle code that if an officer pulls you over, he will be citing this section of law, which essentially says, don't drive faster than is safe and reasonable for the conditions of the roadway. There are in the vehicle code absolute limits and what's called prima facie limits based upon the type of roadway. So whether it's 55, 65, or 70, those are set within the law. The prima facie ones are 15 miles in alleys, 25 near schools, 25 on local streets. And then section 22-354 is and 22-357 talk about how speed limits on local streets that are collectors and arterials are to be set based upon what's called an engineering and traffic study. And I'll talk a little more about that in the next slide. The MUTCD is where this methodology lies in terms of explaining what the engineering and traffic study is and how it is prepared. Essentially, what the MUTCD says is setting a speed limit should be rational and defensible. So it needs to be something that makes sense to the public, which I think is a bit funny because I don't know anybody from the public I've ever talked to that understands how speed limits are set and that they seem rational or reasonable. So the MUTCD does talk about how the speed zones can only be established on the basis of this engineering and traffic survey in accordance with the rules of the MUTCD that says you should do things like review the current speeds on the street of free-flowing traffic and look at other things in making those determinations. So that's what we call the prevailing speed or the 85th percentile speed. And that's based upon the field data collection of a free flow speed of existing traffic. So we go out and measure what are people driving it now with the basic understanding or the basic premise that 85% of the people are driving at a speed that is presumed to be safe and reasonable. And then we also look at crash history from a 12 consecutive month period within the last 3 years. We look at adjacent land use and density, whether there's bicycle pedestrian facilities and to what extent they're being used. And then we look at the roadway classification. The roadway classifications for the purposes of setting speed limits are based upon the California roadway system maps. They're not based upon the city's designation within the general plan. These documents should be aligned, but they're not always aligned. And the reason for that is the CRS maps or the California roadway system maps is something that's approved by Caltrans and Federal Highway Administration. And not all public agencies or local agencies go through that process of getting them approved. So the classifications don't always get updated to match. And then we look at the characteristics of the roadway itself. So going back to this prevailing speed, the 85th percentile speed, we'll take that speed that comes out of that study, and depending on the speed, we can either round it up or round it down to the nearest 5 mile an hour increment, standard rounding procedures. If you round up, the law allows us to make a 5 mile an hour adjustment down, but we can't make any other adjustments to that speed. So for instance, if our 85th percentile speed is 38 miles per hour, we would normally round it up to 40. It does allow us to go down to 35, but we can't make any other adjustments based upon the roadway conditions, the crash history, or those types of things. If it were to be, say, 33 miles an hour, then we can round it to if it ends up being 36 miles an hour, we can round it down to 35. And then we can look at things like the crash history, the land use density, and the bicycle pedestrian safety concerns, and we could round it down to 30 miles per hour. So those are the two options that are available in the law for us to post a speed limit based upon the 85th percentile speed. This has been a concern by public agencies for probably most of my career. Over 30 years, local agencies have been trying to lobby the state for providing more flexibility in the law and the procedures so that local agencies can take things like local context into consideration when the city council sets those limits. There's been many times that this has been tried, and the recent pass of legislation that I'm going to talk about has been probably the most significant change in state law related to speed limits that there has been in 30 years. So what is AB 43? I'm kind of going to go through, there's different sections of the vehicle code. I'm going to talk about what the what the Assembly bill did to change these sections to give us some more flexibility. So one is section 627 defines what an engineering and traffic study is. And it was always unclear as to what the existing language said, because it just said bicycle pedestrian safety. And it was always something where we as traffic engineers would say, well, that's we can interpret that how we want, knowing our community. But often when those engineering and traffic studies would go to court, the commissioner or the judge would look at it and say, well, this doesn't sound like it passes a threshold to be a safety issue to allow you to lower the speed limit by that 5 mile an hour reduction. And therefore the engineering traffic survey doesn't meet the letter of the law. What the legislature, or what this bill does, is it better defines what that means. And what it now says is that we're supposed to take into consideration vulnerable pedestrian groups, including children, seniors, persons with disabilities, users of personal assistive mobility devices, and the unhoused. So it provides more clarification about what pedestrian safety means. 21-400 is a section that was put in by the auto lobby about 4 or 5 years ago, that really cemented in this 85th percentile speed. And all this does is it removes a statement that was in this section 21-400, which is not even a section of the vehicle code related to speeds, but it was put in there through legislation. I think it was sort of hidden through the legislative process, and people didn't realize it till it was approved that that's what it meant. So it takes that out. 22-358 is a section that used to limit the lower speed, the lowest speed that could be set at. So for 25 miles an hour, unless it's a school zone or an alley, we were never allowed to put a speed limit lower than 25 miles per hour. However, there are some local streets that are, say, narrow or have a lot of curvature or are steep or something, where the 25 mile an hour speed limit does not make sense. And what the new law does for this section is allows that through the engineering and traffic study to recommend 25 or 15 miles per hour on those streets. 22-358.6, just it takes out that language that I talked about earlier in terms of those two options for how things are rounded up and down. It was a very prescriptive methodology. It revises that language to make it more simplified, so that you basically are going to round it to the nearest, and then you start looking at things like, what is the safety of the, what's the safety history of the roadway, and what are all these other things that could contribute to looking at a lower speed limit. And then this last section on this page, 22-358.7, this is the section that does not go into effect until 2024, July of 2024. And it allows for further speed limit reductions on what's called safety corridors, or where in places where people are walking, biking, or where there's the vulnerable groups, like I talked about above, children, seniors, persons with disabilities, and the unhoused. And one of the reasons why they pushed this out was because Caltrans, through the update of the METCD, is going to have to define a procedure for how we determine and establish what is a safety corridor. So that's going to be something that we're going to be looking at in the future as we work through this process and wait for Caltrans to update the METCD. Once we get that and we start looking at adjusting some speed limits, we can come back and kind of talk about what that new process is and if it makes sense to designate any of our streets safety corridors. It's going to tie in, I think, a little bit is as the local roadway safety plan that we've talked about earlier. We're going to use that as sort of our databases for looking at these things into the future. There's two other new sections that I wanted to talk about. One is a section that allows the public agency, when it does the survey and looks to change the speed limit, often those speed limits creep up. This section basically allows you, when you get through that process, to say, you know what, the agency wants to keep the existing speed limit, or in fact, we want to go back to the speed limit that was previous to the speed limit that was set in the, then this section allows you to do that and essentially ignore the new engineering and traffic survey process. And then lastly, speed limits in business activity districts can be lowered to 25 or 20 miles per hour if they meet the criteria listed in the vehicle code of 4 or fewer lanes, where the adjacent speed limits coming into that district is no more than 5 miles per hour higher. So it would have to be for 25, 30, or for 20, 25. And then 3 of the following 4, 50% adjacent retail or dining usage, on-street parking, traffic signals or stop signs at least every 600 feet, or marked crosswalks not controlled by a traffic control device. There's probably going to need to be some clarification what that means. My definition of controlled is a rapid flashing beacon does not control the crosswalk. It's just a warning device. So a controlled crosswalk means it's signalized or has a what's called a hybrid beacon, which is a type of signalization, or it's stop controlled. So I was thinking about this in terms of the downtown Calabasas. Is this a section of the code that may allow us to post the downtown section at 20 miles per hour? And it might. There is on-street parking going eastbound, but there's very limited or no on-street parking going westbound. So we don't meet all 3 of the 4, but it's something that we'll be looking into as that project gets completed. We may look at seeing if we can designate it less than the 25 that it is now and was before. And that's something that we would come back to the commission to talk about if we're going to go that way. And then lastly, section 4802, which is this, what's known as the speed trap law. It defines how long the engineering and traffic studies are valid. It lengthens that period from 10 to 14 years. So one of the things that we did do, we had a bunch of speed surveys that were getting ready to expire. What we did last week was we extended them all to the 14 years to kind of give us some time to kind of figure out how these new laws are going to be interpreted by Caltrans and how things are going to change. So for next steps, we're waiting for the general plan update to happen, and we'll talk more about kind of what the status of that is later under the division report. But there will be classification changes to our roadway system, which will affect, which may affect some of the speed limits, and that has to go through the process, as I talked earlier, of getting approved by Caltrans, and by way of Caltrans Federal Highway Administration. That process takes about 9 months to a year. And then we also need to figure out what the definition of safety corridors is, to see if there's areas where we want to make these special designations for a variety of reasons, not necessarily just for speed limit setting. So that's the end of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Tom. Appreciate that. Matt and Sam and Jill, at the next social gathering you have 5 years from now, you too can be traffic speed experts. And from this presentation this evening, as when people say, why is the speed limit this way? So thank you very much. I have a few comments, but I'd like to poll my fellow commissioners to see if there are any questions or points of clarification that they would like to be, go forward with? Jill? You're muted, Jill.
I had one in terms of defining a safety corridor. Does that take into account pedestrians gathering on sidewalks or areas where there are no sidewalks? I didn't, unless I missed it, did not see a mention of that.
Yeah, that's an interesting question because at this point we don't know. So all we know is what the law said when it was adopted, and that is safety corridors. And then it basically in the law, in the language of the law, it says, hey, Caltrans, you've got to go figure it out and update the MUTCD to define what that means. And then it's safety corridors or these places where pedestrians and bicyclists and people with disabilities and things where they quote unquote gather. And that's kind of unclear also. I could define gather. I mean, we could probably define gather 9 different ways if we asked everybody what they meant by gather. So I'm sure that the MUTCD will further clarify what at least Caltrans believes the intent of that is. You know, I'm hoping Caltrans does the right thing. I don't always have a lot of faith in how they establish guidelines and policies related to things, but I know there's different people at Caltrans now that are in a position of making these kind of policy decisions that are thinking more holistically and thinking of all of the users of the roadway. And so there's a committee called the California Traffic Devices Committee, CTCDC, and it's made up of people that are from public agencies, from the Auto Club, from Caltrans, and from industry, who kind of make the recommendations to Caltrans as to how this is all going to transpire. And they're probably going to have many meetings over the next year to talk about what all this means. But at this point, we don't know, and we're anxious to find out.
Thank you.
Very much.
Mm-hmm.
Matt or Jacques or Sam?
I have something. So to be clear, in general, this is putting more power and control back in the municipality's hands.
Yes.
So having said that, and you confirming, I'm all for it. But one thing I found that was interesting, and this is rather inconsequential, but section 21-400 removed the requirement to round speed limits to the nearest 5 mph. Does that mean we're going to start seeing signs around the state of California that might be saying 27 and 31 instead of what we're accustomed to? Yeah,
that's a good question. There are several sections of the code and the MUTCD that talk about that. This is just removing this sort of random placement of a speed law in a section of the code that's not. If you were to go look up speed limits or speed in the vehicle code, this section would never pop up. It was kind of placed randomly in the code with other legislation that sort of tied in the ability to even be flexible with how we round up or down, you know, how many decimal places and all those kind of things. So it's being taken out because it was causing a lot of problems because it was basically forcing a specific way of doing things. So the national and state MUTCDs do not allow fractions of speed limits. They have to be at 5 mile-an-hour increments.
Thank you, Jacques. Or Matt, do you have any other questions or clarifications? Okay, Jacques?
Yeah, just a question for Tom and staff. Is there any way to know how many people, actually residents, have ever come to the city or asked about why certain speeds are designated in certain areas? I can't imagine anyone, I mean, I don't know. Is there any kind of detail on how many people are concerned about why it's posted at 25 and it should be 40 or whatever? I was just curious.
Yeah.
Everyone who gets a speeding ticket, I would imagine. Every time you get a speeding ticket, you're wondering. But
yeah, and I would advise if you ever get a speeding ticket, go to the public agency, a public records request, and get a copy of the engineering and traffic survey. And you know, I have gotten out of a speeding ticket because I didn't think it was done correctly, and I argued before the judge, and he agreed with me. But it's I'm not aware of anybody other than a general people are driving too fast or people are speeding. I have in my tenure, my 3 years back in the early 90s and my couple of years now, I've never had anybody come up and say, why is that 40 instead of 45? We have had when we meet with the public, like on Mulholland, when we were looking at the safety concerns at Ettingham, some of the parents were saying things like, why is it the speed limit? Why isn't it something else? Because my kids are trying to cross, but not in the context of how was that speed limit set?
Doc, anything else? Okay, I have a few questions. One is, Tom, you mentioned that Caltrans classifies all the roadways. Is this for roadways that they own and manage, or is it for every roadway in the state, including those managed, owned by local jurisdictions?
It is all roadways. So the speed trap law section is the section 4802, and it's in the evidence section of the vehicle code. And it talks about how the engineering and traffic studies are not required for local streets. And then it defines local streets as certain width, certain length, or as defined in the Caltrans federal highway map. And so that's the map that we have to point to when we're setting speed limits. When we say, hey, it's 25 local street, it can't be what the city's map says. It has to be what that map says.
Okay.
Yeah. So that the city, will take their general plan and they'll go to Caltrans and they'll say, we would like your map to match our map. And they may or may not agree. They typically agree on most streets. They sometimes like to see a connected arterial and collector system. They tend not to care about local streets, except when cities are obviously trying to reclassify a collector street to a local street for the purposes of trying to set the speed limits.
Right. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
My next question is, as I read through the different amended laws, I began to think, are there any streets or segments or roadways in our community where some of these changes might apply? And I'm not asking for those this evening, but I'll make a broad assumption that Robert and Tatiana and yourself will be going at that in the coming months to see if there's any parts of our city that allow for closer inspection because of these changes.
We are, and it's going to be tied mostly to the safety corridor issue, and it's going to be so the process, as I kind of laid it out in the staff report, is we want to get through the general plan and then get those updated. So like one of the changes we're making in the general plan is Parkmore is not classified as a local street in either the cities or the Caltrans map. So it's not a local street. We're taking that out of the collector designation and making it local so that the 25 miles an hour that's posted there can be legally enforced. So those will mostly be taken care of. That is, I think, the only one that we're removing that doesn't already have a designation. We actually have some that are designated now as local streets that we're making collectors, but we've already been doing speed surveys and setting the speed limits on them, and they don't have fronting residential and those kind of things. But we do have some areas that we have had some concerns, Mulholland, Las Virgenes, that could be safety corridors and allow us to kind of look at them in a broad brush of what can we do to improve the safety, including looking at the speed limits.
And so we'll hear back from you in coming months when the general plan update has been, and circulation element have been moved forward, right?
It'll probably be about a year because it doesn't go into effect until July of 24. So, but it'll be sometime in 2023 that we'll be coming back to the commission with. those recommendations.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Tom, very complete, thorough, and gives us good direction going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, our next agenda item is item 3, Title 6, 2022 update.
That would be me. We
Sorry,
pull it up.
sorry, Chair.
Yes.
Did the public have any comments on this item?
Oh, I'm sorry. Opening this up to the public. Are there any public comments regarding the speed safety legislation?
There's a one hands up, Chair.
Okay,
Susan Ellis, you can speak now. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, thanks very much. I just wanted to say I spoke with Tom about this when I saw it on the agenda. It piqued my interest. I live in Las Virgenes Village, which is north of the freeway off Las Virgenes. We have a lot of problems here with the speed limit being 45. It's just too high, but there's been nothing we can do about it. And I'm hopeful that maybe we'll get to be able to do something about it in 2024 when this new law comes to pass. And I just wanted to mention that and thank you for this presentation.
thank you very much. Appreciate your involvement this evening. Are there other members of the public that are looking to speak on to this agenda item? I'm looking at my participant list right now and I don't see any other raised hands. Am I missing something?
No more hands, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. So with that, we'll close this particular agenda item and we'll move on to item number 3, which is which I had announced previously.
All right. Oh, yeah. Good evening. I'm presenting on the Title VI program update for 2022. The city is required by the Federal Transit Administration to implement a Title VI program since we receive federal funding. And this program must be updated every 3 years. We originally created it in 2016. It was then updated in 2019, and it is due for its update the end of September of this year. Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 protects people from discrimination in federally funded activities based on race, color, national origin in programs that receive federal funds, which our program does. The FTA Circular 4702.1b provides the guidelines for our program document. And here are the guidelines. It's pretty straightforward. There's not really too many hoops to jump through, thankfully. So we have our notice of rights under Title VI, how to file a complaint with a copy of the complaint form, list of Title VI investigations, complaints, or lawsuits that we've previously had, which is none, a public participation plan, a LEP plan, racial breakdown of non-elected advisory councils, including the TTC, narrative describing subrecipient monitoring, which is not applicable for us, and a copy of the Title VI equity analysis for construction of new facility, which is also not applicable for us. Our request for a proposal to create this document, this update, went out in April 2022, and Moore & Associates was selected in May. They are very familiar with our transit program. They are familiar with Metro's Title VI requirements, who we submit to, and they submit it to the FTA. And they previously completed our initial program in our 2019 update. And after their submission at the end of last month, staff determined that the draft program meets FTA and Metro requirements. The cost of preparing this document was utilized with Prop A and Prop C, and no further cost is expected. And my only requested action is staff requests commissioners to recommend the City Council to approve resolution number 2022-1808 to adopt the 2022 City of Calabasas Title VI program. And that's all I have. If you have any questions, and then
Thank you very much. Vice Chair Schechter, do you have any comments or questions regarding this?
I do not at this time. Thank you.
Jacques, any questions or comments?
No, thank you. I do not.
Matthew?
Yeah, just one. This is due to be submitted, published, whatever the case, by September 30th. So this is our last chance to recommend, correct?
correct.
Okay, so in that case, I'm for recommending once it's time to vote.
Sam, are you, I'm assuming you've become an official member of the commission through some administrative approval process, and have you had a chance to look over this, this document?
No, I have not had a chance to look over it, but I did just listen to the presentation of it, and it seems like a very worthy program to pass.
Thank you very much. I had one question or clarification. It appears as if public participation is a key element of ensuring Title VI compliance. And in the Moore report, it goes on at length about what the public participation plan is. And it talks about different levels of project and the requisite amount of public participation. The first one being baseline, which is any kind of changes in routine service or schedule or system enhancements. And I'm wondering, are these public participation opportunities, are they occur on a scheduled yearly basis? Do they occur when there is a proposed service change? Are they done when we're renewing the contract of our service providers? So if you could educate me on what the public participation process is, when we conducted one of these most recently, and when do we do these going forward?
So yes, typically it's for just a single event. It's not going to be an annual thing, unless it's for something like the for the Pumpkin Festival, where we shut down part of the road and we use the shuttles to provide an alternative service. That's annual. For example, the most recent one is we had to move one of our shuttle stops in Old Town Calabasas due to the construction efforts. So that was put on our website, that was put through social media, that was a slight service change due to the relocation. So that would be an example of it. Otherwise, it's not something that we do on a very frequent basis.
Do we have to prepare compliance reports to satisfy Metro or FTA?
Not for this particular item.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thanks for the education, both in the materials we received ahead of this meeting and this evening. With that, the floor is open to a motion to approve the Title VI program resolution.
I'll move to approve that. Elephant in the room. There's not one commission member in the city of Calabasas that's not a Caucasian. And is this based on the most recent census?
I think it's of our commission.
Yes. Correct.
Of our commission, okay.
I don't think it's the entire cadre
I
of,
was gonna say, yeah, all 25, okay. Yeah, having said that, I'm happy to move to approve,
okay.
or recommend, I should say.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, hearing a second, hear discussion on the matter. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passed unanimously. Thank you. By the way, this report is chock full of interesting facts and figures about the city.
Yeah.
And it begs us to be very proactive in communicating with various populations about our public transit system. Thank you. With the close of that particular agenda item, our next item includes our division report. Tatiana, assume you're taking lead on that.
I will present the report. Thank you. Tonight, I will give you some updates on the CIP projects and the smaller projects that are going on or been done recently in the city. I will start with the Old Town Sidewalk Replacement Project, which is in construction right now that I'm sure you're all aware of. And I would like to report, and I'm happy to report, that all northern segments of this project, which is segments 1 through 4 on this map, are open to public now. There are a few items that still to be completed, but the sidewalk is open, the streetlights are installed, and as you can see on the picture here on the left, that's how it looks like now. We're still finishing up some landscaping items. Segments 5 through 8, which are on the south side of the road, are still under construction, and there is schedule. Segment 5 is currently under construction, as well as segment 8. So contractors working on both sides of Calabasas Road. Segment 6 and 7 will begin soon. The reason that's done like this, they put an order like this, so there's an access provided for all parts of Calabasas Road, for businesses, for parkings, for crosswalks, which is very important because they're working on the crosswalks, part of them, and the rest of them are open. And tentative project end date is September 30th. There are more pictures right here of finished items. Here are new street lights and new fencing and hitching posts, new benches and planter pots, and the crosswalks with new pavers, cobblestones, and in-pavement lighting fixture. That is another item that is still to be completed. That's the eliminated crosswalks. And new trees being planted. They're all already been planted on the north side of the road, and the south side is coming. Sidewalk repair and replacement project. We started with phase 1, which included west side of the city, and that project has been already completed with repair of all the sidewalk panels, replacement, and placement of new trees that are native species and more friendly for the sidewalks in terms of their root system. We are currently working on the east side of the city project plans and locations for sidewalk replacement, and the tentative schedule is here on the screen. Bid advertisement is planned for September of this year. Bid opening for October. Construction begin in November, and anticipated construction end is February 2023. The next project is this year's street resurfacing project, the annual project. And we do have contract in place, and we already have a project schedule from the contractor that is approved. Unfortunately, a lot of projects, and we're running with in this similar issues with all the projects now, we're getting delays due to equipment rental, due to material availability. And we did our best to try to finish at least locations that are near the school, where school traffic can be affected. But unfortunately, due to this type of delays, we couldn't do that. That's why we negotiated with the contractor on street resurfacing around the school be done on Saturdays. And here are the list of the streets that we're doing this year. And we're doing some dig outs for more locations in the cities. And well, we'll start the project soon, and we'll hopefully that it will go smoothly without any problems. The next one is a big project. It's the Old Topanga Canyon Mulholland Highway Improvements Project. And with this project, we also run into similar kind of delays. Well, actually, the first delay was due to No bids were submitted the first time around when we advertised the project for the bid. We had to extend bid period for another 3 weeks. I actually contacted some of the contractors who purchased the bid package, and they said it's a big project. We are getting problems with securing the future materials delivery, with laborers, with subcontractors. And basically, everybody kind of indicated that more time is needed to prepare the bid and secure subcontractors. So we extended the bid advertisement period, and we received, following that, we received one bid from GMZ Engineering. This is the same contractor who is working on the Old Town project. And a construction contract was approved at the June 22nd City Council meeting. Construction started this week. They started mobilization and surveying, so there's not much being seen on the roads yet, but you will start seeing signs and traffic control as early as next Monday. And the big kind of scale milestone schedule is presented here on this slide. The contractor will start on the south side of Mulholland Highway with demolition and grading starting next week until August. And the construction activity will be going for the rest of the year. And keeping in mind the construction knows about the school start on August 24th, so they will complete clearing and grubbing and grading work in a manner so they can install the safety barrier on the south side of the road and provide 2 lanes of traffic before the school starts. North side of Mulholland Highway is scheduled to start on December of this year with demolition and grading, and construction activity January to February next year. Wild Walnut parking lot, which is part of this scope of work for this project, is also included, and it will start in August 22 with demolition and grading, and construction activities from August to December. Estimated project completion is March of next year. This is a project that we reported to you previously. Installation of automatic license plate recognition program and installation of the cameras, flock cameras. And the cameras in June, the cameras were installed, 5 cameras were installed in the following locations. Las Virgenes and Agora for southbound traffic away from the intersection. Parkway Calabasas and Calabasas Road for southbound traffic into the intersection. Calabasas Road and Park Granada for eastbound traffic away from the intersection. Park Ora and at Walmart for westbound traffic away from the intersection, and Mulholland and Old Topanga for northbound traffic away from the intersection. The program will be evaluated over the first year to determine its effectiveness and if additional locations should be added. And we're working with Public Safety Division and the sheriffs on that. Mulholland Highway and Edingham Avenue. We had some issues with this intersections with aging lighting system at the crosswalk, and there was a very old beacon that was installed some years ago, many years ago, which was recently replaced with a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, and the in-pavement flashers were repaired. So the crosswalk is in working condition. Now I have a short video here that demonstrates, you can see the beacons flashing here and the in-pavement flashers are also working. To report further on this intersection, staff would include Tom and Treya did a great job, worked on the ATP Cycle 6 grant application for installation of pedestrian hybrid beacon. The application has been submitted. The results, Trey, you can probably correct me if I'm wrong, that we are waiting to hear from them before the end of this year. And the funding will be available next year if we are the recipient of this grant.
Yes, we typically hear from them in December. So it's either a Christmas gift or a lump of coal.
Oh. Okay. Beach bus program and transit update. It's a quick update. We have Calabasas beach bus program. It's running now and began of June 27th and will run until August 19th. And beach bus passes are available. It's $50 for the remaining of the season or $5 for the round trip. Transit passes for 2023 school year are on sale now, and it's $139. And Dial and Ride has 7 new riders. Public or citizen request for the period from the last reported period, we had 36 requests were received through Calabasas Connect system. And the leading is, as usual, it's a street repair and potholes. The next one is trees and plants, which is again expected. And remaining items are different sidewalks with abatement and things like this. If you have any questions or on any of the projects that were presented here, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. Very thorough. Matthew, any questions, comments, clarifications?
None. Thank you, Tatiana.
Jill?
I was curious, Tatiana, thank you for your presentation. Is there a map that you have of where the Mulholland improvements are at this exact moment, and then where the improvements will be starting in December?
I don't have a map with me, but the improvements that are starting right now, they're on the south side of Mulholland from intersection of Topanga, from the signalized intersection, going all the way to the Wild Walnut Park. And the reason for that, because it's a heavy construction that we are trying to, to secure the work zone there to open the street. Then the improvements, they will be working at the intersection of Topanga Canyon West, replacing the storm drain pipe there. That's also will be first order, since it's a big item and might require some lane closures. And again, that's because of the school start that will be addressed first. Then the contractor will move to the other side, to the north side, where the 3 people, the former MRT is, and that will start later. That work will start later.
Thank you. Jill, anything further? Jacques?
I know there was a lot of issues going on with the light near AC Stell School. Is there any updates on that, on what was being changed, if anything, with the making it safer for the students as they cross? And I know there's been some issues of late, towards the end of last year.
We completed some improvements at the Mulholland corridor. We did the restriping, crosswalks were restriped. We replaced some signs, enhanced some signs, because there was an issue with the visibility of the signs in terms of the height, how they were placed. If there's any other updates that are missing, Tom or Treya?
Were they putting flashing beacons at that intersection too, or not?
Not at AC Stell, because the signal is there. We did, after talking to the crossing guard and observing the students crossing, we lengthened the amount of time that the flashing don't walk and walk indications are up to give the kids more time to cross. And we did that in January, I think. And I've heard it's been helpful.
Thank you.
I have a few questions. First of all, I'd like to compliment staff on your Dial-A-Ride program. Your chair had an opportunity to use it a few months ago, get myself over to Kaiser, and the acquisition of the ride went very easily. The ride went very efficiently. The driver had a nice amount of humanity, but not too much, meaning he wasn't too talkative, but it worked very well. So thank you very much for delivering a great service to our community. The next one follows on to Jill's comment, Tatiana, two aspects to it. What are the limits of the project? I guess the eastern and the western limits of it.
It is between two intersections, including the intersections of Old Topanga with Mulholland, Old Topanga East and Old Topanga West.
If I remember correctly, we're going to be installing a signal at Old Topanga West.
Correct.
Okay, is that part of this project?
It is part of this project. That's a very, very long lead time. So the contractor is ordering all the materials, so that work will happen closer to the end of the project, second part of the project.
What
But we
happened?
also will be installing a median at the high school exit on Old Topanga, but this is kind of a small. So when we're talking about limits of the project, that also includes that median.
Yeah, the other thing it includes is that the existing signal, there's going to be a new crosswalk put in so people can get to the new sidewalk.
Yes. Thank you. I have to do my fastest walking across that intersection and decide which island I'm going to surmount and which grassy knoll I'm going to get bites on from insects. So at one time, maybe many months ago, we were part of a presentation and discussion of work on Mulholland that would work its way up to Viewpoint. Tell us about that and whether that is still percolating or what is its status?
Yes, we are working with the consultant on the design for from intersection of Old Topanga for that segment of the road all the way to the city limits. And it's currently in the design, it's in 30% design. When we reach 60% of the design, we will go back to the commission. We will probably have another meetings, workshops, presenting the new features that are, for erosion control, for, the Mulholland Highway cross section, what that project actually includes, and on aesthetics of that and the work. So we are, yes, it is in the works. We will be coming with the updates to the commission on that one.
Do you think that'll be October or January or special meeting?
It might be a special meeting. Yeah.
I think you'll get a lot of interest. There's a lot of aesthetic concerns, not just engineering and geotechnical. What will it look like? And I'm sure Commissioner Kuzunea will have a lot of comments about that since it's his front yard or backyard or yard. So thank you very much for that.
Yes. This is the, one of our focuses to work on the aesthetic element of that as well. So that will be part of that future presentation.
Right. So if you could give us a heads up if there'll be a special meeting to engage us, and that would be most helpful. The another one was on the automated license plate recognition. Can you remind me why we're doing this and what it will be used for?
I will refer this to Tom. It was his project.
Thank you, Tom.
Sure. So this was brought to us by the Sheriff's Department, and it's part of a wider range program they have across multiple agencies as a way to reduce and deter crime. And it's been shown in other agencies that they've installed these in that it actually does that. So one of the things that's unique about these systems is the license plates come from a federal database from the Department of Justice. So not anybody can just put their name in a database and say, hey, I've got to go find Frank. Here's his license plate number. So it's only people that they're looking for of a broader concern. So what happens is anywhere the license plate is read throughout the entire system across agencies, it'll notify people. So if there's somebody that causes a crime in LA and drives this way and gets detected at one of our cameras coming into the city, the sheriff's department will get notified and they can go look for that person. So it's a really good system. The system that we have is in like 15 or 16 cities, but there's about another 30 more that are doing or just getting into a test, kind of like ours. Ventura County has 7 of the 10 cities have at least one camera. I know that the city of Ventura just put in 30 more, that they said it's been the biggest deterrent to crime that they've ever done, because it does have a deterrent effect also, as people who cause crime start to realize that these cameras are out there. They tend to avoid those communities that have them. So it's a pretty good system. It's a trial period now to see how well it goes. And the locations that we've selected are kind of at the boundaries, trying to cover as much as we can. And, you know, we'll be looking at this probably in about 6 months when we have data. We can report back under a division report once we get any of that information about how well it's going.
And are we paying for it out of general fund, or are we getting monies from the Department of Justice or LA County?
I think it's coming out of our public safety funds. So it's the project at this point, we sort of manage the installation, working with them, getting it through council approval and everything. Now it's in the hands of our public safety folks that are managing that project, and it's coming out of public safety funds as far as I know.
Thank you.
And it's not that much. It's a few $1,000s a year.
And it has no other purpose. It's not for the purpose of speed cameras. It's not for the purpose of identifying individuals in vehicles. What precautions for protecting personal liberties are built into it?
So the cameras themselves do not read or detect speed. They're only looking at license plates, and they are taking a picture that allows the system to identify the plate and a general color and make of vehicle. It's taking a picture of the rear of the vehicle. So it's not getting any occupants inside. It's just trying to figure out the license plate and what type of vehicle it might be and the color. And that helps to correspond with the database that, yes, that is the car.
Okay, very good. Thank you. One final question, and it kind of links to Tom, to this last item that I asked about. Traditionally, we've had a sheriff's department report as part of our agenda. And I obviously was not as part of the meeting agenda tonight. Is that something that we will revisit in future meetings of this commission?
I can look into that. Right now, sheriff reports only to city council, and based on the budget cut and also shortage of the staff. But now that we have a new captain, see if he can make that arrangements.
Okay. Thank you very much. That concludes my questions on the division report. Any other questions from my fellow commissioners? I'm trying to figure out if I don't see any hands raised by attendees on this particular item. Okay, if I'm
I
using
just
this
have a quick
correctly.
question for Tom.
Yes.
With regards to, you said there was a deterrent, it was a deterrent for criminals and such. Are they just they must be aware that they're probably coming into places looking for the cameras, right? Because they're not that obvious. I mean, I drive those streets all the time. I'm not sure I've ever noticed that there was a camera up there that could be taking my picture or the car's license plate, but so are they just being more aware that this is going on and that's what's being the deterrent?
The cameras are pretty small, so I urge you to go out to those locations and look at them. The cameras themselves are not that big. The solar panel is actually the biggest piece of it. From what the manufacturer has said and what the sheriff's department has said, their experience in other agencies, it's word of mouth that people that are getting caught are telling other people that are in this crime ring or that, hey, this city now has cameras, that city now has cameras, be careful. So from what they've told us is that it's more word of mouth than somebody going around and pre-looking at cameras and say, okay, I can go to Calabasas now because they don't have cameras, or they only have one. It's more of a word of mouth.
When do you expect to have an initial report on this?
Well, that's in the hands of the Sheriff's Department and Public Safety. So now that all the cameras are finally in, the staff has been trained, and the Sheriff's Department now has access to the system. Our original discussions that it's going to be at least 6 months from, say, now that we're going to go back to council, which will be about a year from when council approved the program. We go back with sort of 6 months of data, probably in January, February, and kind of let them know, how things are going. And that's going to be led by our public safety and Sheriff's Department folks, not me or Public Works.
Let's make sure that we have something on our agenda, looking at future items for if we have early peak would be January. Correct?
Yeah, what I can do is I'll put a note, and in December, I'll talk to the Sheriff's Department to see if they have any preliminary information that I can share under the division report in January.
Okay, very good. Tatiana, what do you have in store for us at our next meeting, which I gather is going to be on October 25th?
We will give you more updates on our projects. We will give you new transit updates. We will have West Calabasas Road project starting in design. Any items that you would like to bring up?
Are there any any projects going through planning that have a traffic transportation dimension to it that we should be aware of, even if it's not looking for action on our part, but simply an information item?
We don't have such a bigger scale projects yet.
Okay. Well, let's keep that in mind for as we proceed the next several months. If there's anything on the horizon for us to be hearing about at our October meeting.
Okay.
Very good, thank you. With that, close that particular agenda item, the future agenda item requests. And unless Jacques or Matt or Jill, any requests for you? Okay, thank you very much. That takes us to our adjournment. And we proceeded very efficiently tonight. And I thank everyone for their hearty participation. With that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment and our regathering on October 25th.
Move to adjourn.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second.
Very good, Jacques. Thank you very much. Hearing a motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those who are in favor of adjournment, please indicate by verbally saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone, very much. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Hope to see you before then, but if not, it'll be on October 25th. And Anna, thank you for delivering the materials digitally as well as in print fashion. It was nice to have redundancy. Thank you very much. Tom, Tatiana, Robert, thank you very much for this evening, and we'll see you soon.
And Treya.
Good night.
Freya,
Thank you.
yes.
Night.
Thank you.
Sam, bye.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye now.
Good night.
Night.